Week 4 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few plays I look to sell and trade this week. The first play at Derrick Henry of the Baltimore Ravens. Derrick Henry so far, he's looked good for the most part in the early going. But the way the game script went versus the Dallas Cowboys, those are the type of games that Henry needs to be successful all season. And so far, this Raven defense has been shaky the first 3 weeks of the season. So Derrick Henry, after coming off, possibly will be his best game of the season. 151 rush yards on 25 carries. 2 rushing touchdowns and a catch for 23 yards. Derrick Henry's a sell-high candidate this week because the last couple weeks touchdowns did bail Derrick Henry out in week 1 and week 2. So I know he's going to have a lot of easy goal line stoppers this season as Derrick Henry. But like I said, he went into Dallas and he torched them on the ground. One of the worst defenses in the league against the run this season. So Henry coming off a monster performance, I would put him on the trade block and see what I could get. Because like I said, if a lot of ball games where they're up Baltimore, then the game script's going to be in Henry's favor. But if it's a ball game where it's close or they're trailing, he's not going to be the game a lot like we saw week 1 at Kansas City. And week 2 versus Vegas, it was a close ball game. And if Henry didn't get that rushing touchdown, he only had 10. So after coming off, possibly will be his best game of the season. I would sell Henry high this week. The next play is his teammate Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens. I just don't see Andrews having a big role this season with this Raven offense. Now it's been 3 weeks. Week 1, he didn't do much. Isaiah Likely outplayed him big time for the Baltimore Ravens. Then week 2, he had a decent ball game, 9.5 fantasy points. And then week 3, in a game where they put up 28 points and they were up early and often, Mark Andrews, he didn't play a lot of snaps in that game. He had the goose egg as well as Mark Andrews and only 1 target, so it's definitely concerning. Mark Andrews had the major leg injury last season. I believe he's not 100%. And also with Isaiah Likely emerging and now Derrick Henry as well in the backfield for this Baltimore Raven team where you know he's going to get 15, 20 touches minimum per ball game. It's taking some volume away from throwing the football from Lamar where he's still running the football a lot as well. And Mark Andrews, his snaps have gone down the first 3 weeks of the season and the targets have gone down with guys even like Rashad Bateman out targeting and out playing Andrews so far this season in the passing game. So right now, if I could get anything from Mark Andrews, I would dump him off. I'm not saying you're going to get a lot for him, but just like I explained, the way things are going for Mark Andrews, it's not looking good. Like he's going to turn things around when Henry added to this offense. That's another, like I said, 15, 20 touches going his way, where last season they didn't run the football a whole lot with Gus Edwards in that backfield and Justice Hill compared to now. Jackson's going to get his rushing yards on the football 10, 15 times per game. Mark Andrews, I would sell him off even if I could get a back-end running back or something else in a deal this week. The next play is another tight end, Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles. So with A.J. Brown down, and now Devonta Smith possibly with a concussion. Dallas Goedert, he went out there and had a monster game and one of the better games you'll ever see from a tight end. 10 catches, 170 yards for the Philadelphia Eagles. So a couple big plays in that one, including a 60-yard catch going down the sidelines after doing a slant, and another 30-yard catch as well in that ball game for Goedert. So Goedert's always been a pretty decent tight end for this Philadelphia Eagles team, but a lot of inconsistencies over the last season and change since A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith have both been there in the system for Philadelphia. And after coming off of that monster game, he's a sell-high candidate as Dallas Goedert, because off that game alone, I believe you could get a deal for a running back possibly, because tight end's been a weak position. A lot of tight ends have been busts early in the season, and now Sam Laporta banged up, and also Trey McBride possibly a concussion. So if someone's desperate for a tight end and they see Goedert came off that big game, it's a perfect time to put him on the trade block and see if you could get a valuable piece in a deal this week. The next sell-high player is Deontay Johnson of the Carolina Panthers. Deontay Johnson, easily his best game as a Carolina Panther of the season. So this Panther team went up and down the field at the Vegas Raiders in the Week 3 victory. And Andy Dalton, he's a gunslinger. He's going to throw that football down the field. He don't care if he gets intercepted at this point of his career. He's going to go play his game being in this league over 10 seasons in Andy Dalton. And we saw Deontay Johnson come off an 8-catch, 122-yard touchdown performance on 14 targets. So Dalton really was spreading the football out. He was stretching the field, like I said, getting the football down the field. And Deontay Johnson's a sell-high candidate because the next couple weeks, some tougher matchups coming up versus Cincinnati and Chicago and even Atlanta, pretty solid defense as well. So Johnson, off that one game alone where he was an unplayable player, now 20-plus fantasy points in week 3. I would look to sell him high because I don't believe we're going to see performances from him again like that this season. I think he'll be a decent option if Andy Dalton remains the quarterback, but I just don't believe he's going to be a consistent option and putting up monster numbers. Next sells for Chuba Hubbard of the Carolina Panthers. So Hubbard, his best game of the season, clearly in that victory at the Vegas Raiders, and a lot of good stats coming out of that one for the Carolina Panthers, and it most likely will be their best offense of performance of the season. So Hubbard, 21 carries, 114 yards in that one. He added 5 catches, 55 yards, and a touchdown, and he's a sell-high candidate for many reasons. I don't believe he's going to do that consistency, get over 100 yards, and I believe he's not going to get 21 touches as well, where Carolina, I still believe, majority of the season, going to be trailing early and often and have to throw the football a lot. And also as well, Jonathan Brooks, who they drafted in the second round of the NFL draft, he's going to come back any week now, I believe, for this Carolina Panther team, where he was one of the best running backs in college football before he torn the ACL. And like I said, a second-round pick they took on him was the Panthers, and he's more of a 3-down back. So with all those factors factored in and Hubbard coming off a monster performance, he's a sell-high candidate this week. Sells Rachaad White of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So weekly, he's starting to lose touches, and in between the tackle touches as well, to Bucky Irvin, who's looked like the better running back in the first 3 weeks of the season. So Rachaad White, we know, is one of the better receiving backs in the league, but in terms of efficiency and yards per carry, he's one of the worst starting backs in that category is Rachaad White. So right now, he was a 4th, 5th rounder going into fantasy drafts. I know his value is super low right now for Rachaad White, but if I could sell him off and get anything before I can't get anything at all, if, like I said, Bucky Irvin's going to take over possibly in this backfield for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Rachaad White's a sell this week. He's a good player catching the football out of the backfield, but in between the tackles, you need someone who could at least get 4.5 yards per carry, and so far Bucky Irvin has definitely done that, and they drafted him in day 2 of the NFL draft for a reason as well, was this Tampa Bay Buck team, because they weren't 100% sure where Rachaad White, so he's a sell-off candidate this week, and the player looked to sell and trades Aaron Jones of the Minnesota Vikings. Aaron Jones, it's been a good start for him with his new team, and they're 3-0 on the season, and a monster performance in week 3, 19 carries, 102 rush yards, 5 catches, 46 yards, and a touchdown, 6 targets. But the thing with Aaron Jones, injuries have been a concern for him. He's getting to that running back age where they start falling apart and on the decline. But so far, the first 3 weeks of the season, especially week 1 and then last week for Aaron Jones, it was monster ball games for him. But right now, like I said, I don't think he's going to be healthy the whole season. I believe Ty Chandler is one of the more versatile and better handcuffed backup running backs in the league. And right now, while Aaron Jones is playing great football and this Minnesota Viking team is playing great football, he's a sell-high player this week. So that's a few plays I look to sell and trade for week 4 of the fantasy football season.